Frontline with Kortney Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests. It's another episode of your favorite podcast. Yes, that one this time, the Frontline podcast. I'm Tom Parisi with Kortney Kenny. Our special guest, you may have seen him before in a podcast. Check back with an episode with Adam Dennis. Isaiah is joining us as well today. He's going to check in, see how we do things. And for his fourth tour of duty, but 800th with Kortney, it's head coach of your North Bay Battalion, Ryan Oulahen. Oulie, it's good to have you back. Lately, you've been dressing what seems like all of a sudden all the rookies. You're happy to have some of the normal top line players back?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me here, guys. It's always a pleasure coming on. And I know everyone says it when they come on, but I'll start it off with just thanking you once again for doing an outstanding job. Believe it or not, you guys are somebody I listen to on my ways into work most days. So you kill some time for me.
That's our best asset. It's on my resume. Time killer, professional.
But yeah, getting to that, I think it's been different, right? It's a unique year in that sense. We knew it was going to be that way, and certainly kind of going through, whether it's the injury bug, the COVID bug, everything in between. I think it's been good. I think it's been good for our group. I think it's been really good for like you said, some of our younger guys getting in the lineup and playing some really good hockey and producing right now. And now, we're sneaking some veterans back in healthy and starting to get over, kind of some of these major injuries.
I, of course, have interviewed you pretty much after every game, so there's going to be a lot of overlap in my questions here, of course, that you've already heard. But when it comes to the injuries and all that stuff, you mentioned how the players have really kind of had this opportunity to take it and run with it and all that stuff. And we've seen it recently with Bouchard being called up and scoring his first, Romani scoring his first, Seema scored his first, Oatwater's got his second as well. So just, your thoughts on those guys that maybe were playing fourth line minutes, or in Bouchard's case, wasn't even on the team before this stuff happened.
Well, I just think they're starting to take hold of an opportunity and really kind of running with it. We always say it's in every sport, it's in life in general, but when you do have confidence to go succeed at what you want to do, that can really boost things up, we call it the big boys, so to speak, are always been there since day one in terms of our offense. Now all of a sudden you get those extra goals from those other guys now, and now you're starting to see us kind of putting in 5 goals a game all of a sudden again, which is kind of nice to getting back to that. But yeah, just those guys have really stuck to it. They're trusting in the process and the plan, and you always see with young guys that they start to relish when they get big minutes, when they get some confidence underneath their belt.
We always ask players, how do they know when they've kind of figured it out? They're like aha moment. How do you know?
How do I know when I figured it out, or
when they figured it out? How do you know when they've hit their stride?
It's tricky. Well, first and foremost, just coaching junior hockey, they're not going to hit their stride for many, many years. I think that's the continuous improvement of players. You just kind of see what the older guys are doing this year in terms of, how far Brandon Coe's come, how far Mitch Russell has come. Those are the sort of the older guys that have been in North Bay for a long time. Just look at the evolution of junior hockey. So I think you're just kind of seeing snippets of an Outwater, a Seema, a Romani, those 16-year-old mainstay guys in the lineup. The growth of them is it's not even tapped in yet, So I think there's still a ways to go, but certainly I'm going to talk as a bit of a coach right now, and coaches want their players to be defensively sound first. And, I think that's always the biggest, sort of transition that young players need to make coming into our league. And those guys have done a much better job with it. And because they're doing it now is, they end up having the puck in the offensive zone more, and then their natural skill can take over. So I hope I answered that the best I could. It's a loaded question only because, again, the evolution of junior hockey.
I wanted to ask a bit of an update kind of question. This is actually one I don't think I've ever asked you in the millions of post-game interviews. But now that we've gotten you back on the podcast at this point where the season's at its halfway point, Last time we talked, you were just coming into camp after seeing these guys that, you'd heard so much about and done so many Zoom interviews with over the canceled season. What have you liked out of this group to this point? And now that you've seen them on the ice, what has really stood out for you?
This has been such a fun group to work with, and really what we see is a group of guys that absolutely love being together. I've actually probably never been around a group that just the whole collective group of them just love being at the rink. Love being at the rink. Practice could be over and all of a sudden there's a couple hours later, they're still hanging around. They're still doing their stuff, and guys are getting to the rink early. I think we've just created a real good buzz and atmosphere that everybody looks forward to coming to the rink. And I think it stems with, obviously, right from the top, the leadership, but Adam's done a great job of bringing in guys that are hungry to get better and just good, charismatic personalities. There's a good mixture of guys in that room, from young to old too. It's really a collective group that everybody gets along really, really well. And it's been a joy for us to work with them and come to the rink and have fun every day. And then, you see the hard work stemming from that. So that's been the biggest thing for us. We talk about literally every day is how lucky we are to be able to work with this group.
How easy was it to integrate Kyle McDonald and Grayson Ladd and Cevich into the whole program? How seamless was that?
Pretty seamless, and again, I give credit to our room, to open up to those guys. I think it did help that all three of them knew some people, in our room. Cevich is really good friends with Petrov. That stems back years and years. So, that's going to help him. And then Grayson and Kyle, just being older players in the league, knew of some of our veteran players. And even a little sneaky tidbit, I believe Kyle McDonald and Kyle Jackson, even when they're 13 or 14 years old, lived together and played us. Yeah. Right. and that's something that I didn't know until we brought Kyle in. So that helped, and then obviously there were guys that, we were kind of targeting because of what they can do. And so in terms of our system and structure, we knew that they were going to fit pretty quickly.
How much of a say in trade deadline, what I need, how much of that how much input do you have in the whole process?
Well, again, the credit goes to Adam for asking, not just myself, but our whole entire staff. He really does listen and lets us kind of talk together as a staff, and that's every day. It's literally every day. We have our players on our big whiteboard in our room, and it's our favorite thing to stare at and just talk about our guys and where we are and where we're headed, and it's just continuous. It's always so. I think it's pretty collective. Obviously, Adam does a tremendous job of fielding the calls and doing what he does best. It's an outstanding job.
With the, some time to digest since we talked on Sunday, now that you've come out of that weekend and you're on a bit of a roll here with 4 straight, but also 3 wins against really 2 tough teams on the weekend. Heading into your 2 days away from Niagara, how are you feeling?
Well, obviously, when you have success on a weekend, it's a good feeling. You have the day off. We always typically have our days off on Monday, and I'm sure it's a good feeling, all around. But we really do kind of look at, not just the wins and losses. Of course, it's better to win, but the process and how we're playing, and are we doing things properly, and are we playing our game? And for the most part, I think we were happy about that. And even the weekend prior, even though that was a tough weekend, we felt like we were heading in the right direction, and playing the right way, and then the results are going to happen. So we feel like that, that was certainly the case. I think there's a ways for us to still go and still grow and get better and do a lot of things, a little bit more consistently in terms of, just the little things that are going to ultimately win, I think, at the end of the day. And we're continuing to work on that.
I wanted to ask about, excuse me, your captain, Liam Arnsby, who's been out of action a little bit now, and it seems like he'll be out of action for a little bit now, going forward too. His leadership obviously has been phenomenal this season, but what's it like where he can't get into the lineup? What's that like in the room kind of thing from a head coaching perspective?
Well, it's certainly tough. You can't replace somebody like Liam and what he brings in terms of the compete factor, the energy, the little intangibles that he does. And then you're right, in the room, he's looked at as that leader. But one thing that he's done such a good job of here is, and when you are the captain, maybe not necessarily typical of everybody that goes through an injury, but with him, it's keeping him involved, like keeping him around. He's actually doing some stuff for us coaching staff during the games, and having him track things, and having him actually go and tell the players a little bit of some messaging as well. So we've given him that role, through this thing, and because he's such a valuable guy, like you said, in terms of the leadership, and he's stepping up in that regard.
So what you're telling me is Yogi's job of sitting up and being the eye in the sky is in jeopardy.
He had a good run.
Yeah. With all the injuries and whatnot, and I know the team's been playing well with especially recently without these big guys in the lineup, but how excited are you to get back an Arnsby or a Jackson into that lineup and see how they all mesh?
It'll look nice. It will for sure be welcome addition, for sure. I mean, Kyle's been out for a while. I've just before we jumped on here, I was watching Hamilton, Mississauga playing tonight, and it just popped in my head like, holy cow, the last time we played Hamilton was the date that, Kyle Jackson went out. So he'll be a nice addition when we get him back. It's just like inserting, one of the best players in the league, or making a huge trade, or, just getting somebody back healthy. The same case will be with all of our guys. It's the guys that we have missing right now are all key components and key contributors to our lineup. So when you get them all back in, you get them all healthy. Things are looking pretty up, and then at the same time, you've just made your team so much better through the process, because, like we were talking about before, all those young players got to play through this whole thing. So now the depth has certainly improved. What could have been our second line 2-3 weeks ago looks like our third, maybe even fourth line. Knock on wood, that when everybody gets healthy, and those are guys that can play. Those are guys that have been killing penalties for us, and so you see that when everybody gets back in, the minutes can spread out a little bit more evenly, which can increase how you're going to play every other night, which is usually what happens in the playoffs.
And what a great problem to have. Like, oh no, I have too much depth. Whatever will I do? That just means, guys on the ice can be competing for spots that much more.
Exactly. An incredibly healthy situation. And that's what happens when everybody improves and everybody gets better at the same time. You create that kind of internal competition, which guys love to compete and play for it. So it ultimately makes us better.
I wanted to ask another question I saw on the North Bay Battalion fan page actually a couple of days ago, or it wasn't a question. It was somebody had an opinion that this team is more fun, and they prefer to that first year team that went all the way to the finals, type of thing. And as someone who was a coach on that team, how does this team compare? And in many ways, how are they different?
They're quite a bit different. I think that team, just that team that went to the finals that first year, that was a group of guys that gelled at the right time. And I think we won through depth, won through, I remember going in on the road and conference final and starting our fourth line of Jamie Lewis, Connor Jarvis, and Matt Santos, I believe, was a fourth line that just played incredible hockey for us. And so I think that was the strength of that team in terms of the depth, and no real superstars. Of course, we had the Barclay Goodrow that had the timely goals and all that kind of sort of stuff. But outside of that, there wasn't, Nick Paul wasn't the Nick Paul yet. Micah Matteo wasn't Micah Matteo yet. So that team really did it by committee and sticking to it, where this team here has, some firepower. I think we got some weapons. some game breakers, so to speak, that can kind of break open a game. Now, when you get that, you just, it's just still continuing to preach the other things. When you don't have the puck, how you're going to play, those types of things. And but I really think that this team has a lot of still growth and the potential. I know that's a dangerous word to use sometimes, but when you have that much firepower, and then you get the compete factor and all that, I think we can just play the game in so many different ways and, welcome any which way a team wants to play. And I think that's the strength of our group.
We're about 2/3 of the way through the season now. And how lucky do you guys feel you've actually played all those games?
No, great point. For sure. I think that's another little blessing in disguise. When you look at what our schedule looks like here, the rest of the way it's manageable. And some of the other teams right now, boy, it's tight. It's busy. And we kind of went through those periods of 2-3 weeks where you got to do it. I wouldn't want to do it for 6, 7, 8 weeks, right before playoff time. So we're thankful for that. And we've been able to plug away and continue to play our games.
On the flip side of that, though, when you look at the standings, and I know, some people prefer not to look at the standings, but when you see a team like, Barrie or somebody that has like 5 or 6 games in hand on you, is that a little troublesome to you, or are you not worried about it?
Not really, because the way I look at it is you get out, and you let them chase you down, and they got to win those games. You put the pressure right on them. It's almost like starting the shootout and you score first in the shootout, right? Now all the pressure is on the other team to match that or continue that. So I like it. I like kind of that we're kind of out, with game played, and our points are kind of in the bag, so to speak. So I think it's a good thing.
Well, it's nice not to look forward. Everybody else can watch you guys coast. I mean, the last 3 games were fantastic. Before that, it was a little bit tough to get out of that slump. What changed in those to begin those 2 games against the Sioux, for instance? Those were tough, hard-fought games. I got to listen to them here on the radio on my way home from work, and they were all nail biters.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm a big believer that I don't think things changed, kind of going into that night. I go back to the previous weekend when we started playing, sort of what our battalion hockey was like again. We were getting back on track, and then that hard fought game against Ottawa and sneaking it out in a shootout, all of a sudden, boom, you just get that belief again. And then I think that's what carried us into this past weekend, with having some success. And then again, just the first night against Sioux follows into the next night against them. You're able to get off to a good start, which then ultimately follows into the Sunday game, and kind of when you're playing like that, you almost want to just keep playing. But at the same time, it's nice to have a couple of days to debrief and everything. But junior hockey, it's sometimes momentum can be dangerous, and hopefully we can keep the engine rolling.
Speaking of that weekend, you go up against a guy like Shane Wright. There's a lot of eyes on Shane Wright, and you guys, I mean, he got a goal in the last minute or so of that game, but to basically shut him down for most of those 60 minutes, what does that do for the group?
Well, it's positive, and it's certainly something that you can make reference to when you're going to play the undisputed right now. Then what they're saying is the number 1 pick for the NHL draft. My saying to the guys is, what a day to have a day. Or when we were in Kingston, it's a night to have a night, because there's going to be a lot of eyes watching him, which then in turn are going to be a lot of eyes, watching you and watching us. So spin it into a positive. And I think our guys kind of take pride in that. And, they did a real good job against them. He's such a good player. He's able to sneak one out. He batted out of the air there in the third period. But I do think our guys kind of rise to the challenge, and they've done that all year. I've said it since day one. It just seems like when we play a good opponent, that kind of brings out the best of us.
we see them on the podcast and we interact with them and they're great. But what, like, especially when he's going to be he's probably going to be the highest drafted North Bay Battalion since the team moved here. Ty Nelson, take us through what some of those guys are like behind closed doors that, the public might not see.
You probably could ask that with, it's some interesting guests on lately with Mackenzie Campbell and Andrew Satchke and Nick Moran. I mean, they would probably see a little bit more of the behind the scenes. I think maybe sometimes when the coaches walk into the room, especially the head coach, maybe things aren't as, open or goofy or whatever the case may be. But what I can tell you about Ty Nelson is, like, the work ethic that this guy has is off the charts. You see it in games. Like, every play is like game 7, for him, and he just wants more and wants more and wants more. And I guess, talking about behind the scenes is that it doesn't stop on the ice for him. It is then in the weight room. It's then in practices. It's all the time. I'm sure he goes home and he's watching hockey all the time. It's just that addiction to get better. And Ty's got that. He's an unbelievable player and somebody we love to coach.
You think that kind of bleeds over into other players? Like, they
No
see
question.
that and they're like, that's where I got to get to.
No question. Yeah. And just, it's not just him, but we have so many players like that mold, and then again, give Adam credit. This is something that I know him and his scouting staff talk about is, wanting to find the players that have the appetites like that, the appetite so we can feed it. We got lots of video that they can watch. We got weight rooms and, strength coaches and mental performance coaches and so many different intangibles and tools that we can feed these guys, but they need to want it. And our group does. And it's guys like Ty that lead the way.
Of course, the OHL is a development league, and so it's fascinating to watch players from the rookie season to now. And one player that's been really fascinating, especially with how much of a star he's been this year, has been Brandon Coe, watching his progression from year 1 to now. And I wanted to ask about, even just in this season, you have him out there on the penalty kill, and that's something that we wouldn't have seen of Brandon Coe in years past. Just what's his maturity level like, and what's it like, watching this progression of him this season?
Outstanding. It's been absolutely outstanding, and that's something that, just talking with San Jose and having sort of that plan, and you can have that communication is, maybe this is something that he can put in his game for the next level. And you're right, us being a developmental league, I mean, we owe it to Brandon to try to work on that part of his game, and he has accepted it and excelled in it. It's, as you can see, sometimes I play him a minute and a half in a 2-minute penalty kill because so effective with his speed. And I know Billy Holder, who runs our PK, is just really happy with the buy-in and with the things that he has done to learn that. It's his first year doing it, and now I can be confident to say that he'll be able to kill at the next level and hopefully in the National Hockey League one day.
Another player in that vein, unfortunately, we've really only gotten to see him this year, is Matvei Petrov. I know when it was coming, a lot of people said, he's your typical offense first guy, and he's been out there penalty killing recently. Just what's that been like, his development this past year into kind of an all-rounded player now?
Well, same sort of thing, right? It's, some of these guys that want to go on to the next level. And I was just saying it with our younger players, a team like Edmonton is going to be saying it with Matvei, the same thing. It's the work away from the puck. Can we improve that? Can we get that better? And what better way to start than, to trust them on the penalty kill? And we kind of have this theory too with our staff, some penalty killers that have that really good offensive high-end brain can relish in a penalty kill mold because their anticipation, they kind of know what the guys are going to do because they're usually the ones on the other side. They're also real good at, if you notice, clearing the pucks all the way down the ice because, they don't panic. They want the puck on their stick. And so when they get the puck in a tight situation on a penalty kill, they're able to do maybe a little minor toe drag and then rifle it 20 feet high down the ice, saucer pass, like, make it look unbelievable. That's such a hard play I know when I play, that was a tough play for me to make. But the offensive guys sometimes can really excel in that way.
There's nothing wrong with being a Henrik Zetterberg or Pavel Datsyuk. Just saying.
Not a bad career. A couple Stanley Cups.
I'm saying.
One thing when it comes to the power play as well, I mean, this is, as of the weekend, you were top 5 in the league. And of course, a lot of the credit goes to, the coaching staff, but a lot of credit goes to the personnel you have out there as well, which is dangerous. I mean, the power play is just amazing at how fast they can get the puck east to west and get the goalie moving. What's it been like coaching those guys? I mean, it's scary when it's, Ty Nelson's the rookie out there on the defense, quarterbacking it, and you got Brandon Coe and Petrov and all them.
Well, it's been fun. It's certainly fun to watch them and the things that they can do, especially in practice. And, even when we get all the healthy guys back and everybody, then, I think what you're going to see is 2 units being able to compete against each other, and holy cow, that might even improve things even more. So, but again, credit goes to Scott Ray. He runs it. I really don't say much to him. I mean, he's had success as a coach running that power play since day one in North Bay. And I just stay out of the way and watch, him work with our high end talent and do his thing.
How easy is it for your job when your assistants, they're good to go, like they got this?
Sometimes what I've learned is when the guys around you working with you, when they're better at something than you are, you just let them do it. You don't, right? Because then ultimately it makes us all look good. So, no, and all kidding aside, I mean, that really is, I really trust the guys in their areas and lucky. I'm just so lucky to walk in there every day and for us to work together and work as a staff and just have, we have so much fun together too. And I think maybe that's what the players kind of see us having so much fun and working so hard that it stems over to them, or I hope it does, but they do a great job for us.
I wanted to, one of the last ones I got for you here before we let you go, Ryan, I wanted to get your, I know we talked about it at the time, but your impression on, everything was kind of happening at the beginning of January and we weren't sure if the league was going to pause or not, but instead it continued without fans. First off, how happy were you that you were able to continue the season? Second off, how weird was it coaching without fans in attendance?
Well, we were ecstatic to continue on. I think that was such a big relief for everybody. I mean, you can't not but fear the worst when some, all the news starts coming down, and but to hear the commitment from our ownership and the governors to keep the league rolling, I mean, that was huge, and we kept going. So there was, I think there was kind of some positives and some negatives throughout the process. Obviously it was different playing without the fans. We really miss them. Even having 500 back in the building is, I mean, you've been at the games, Kortney, like it's loud, it's still vibrant. It's, off big plays and big moments in the game, they make a difference. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like when there's more. And then, when we didn't have the fans, I wasn't sure how it was going to be, but I didn't think it was a massive adjustment because, the competitive nature of the game was still there. If anything, players and refs and everybody could just hear each other a lot more. So we found we were able to correct guys kind of in the moment because they could hear us. There was never confusion. So, we turned those kind of things into a positive as well.
One of the nice things I found about going to the rink as without fans in attendance was I could wear my battalion jersey and not feel bad about it as being part of the media. So there I was up in the media row wearing my jersey. But anyways, before you go, Ryan, the big games this Sunday, I want to get your opinion. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not the biggest football fan going, but I think it would be kind of a cool story to have the home team win. I think them hosting it. Was it the in a while, or these are just the little things that I pick up on, but it's there hasn't been a home team that's hosted it that's been the actual home team, correct?
Yeah, in a long time.
In a long time.
I do think the Bucks hosted it last year and they won with Brady.
But they were the visiting team.
Oh, they were considered okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So
which is weird. That's so weird to have in your home field.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. So I think it'd be cool to see the home team win.
Mr. Bob Coles is you've probably notched or dropped a couple of notches of Mr. Bob Coles' book for sure. He's a big 49ers fan, so he can't
try not to offend anybody. So
everybody's gonna have a great time and someone's gonna win.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Yeah.
Gonna have a couple of wings, and that's good to go. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us again. We'll try and make it not as long this time around between tours of duty.
Well, thanks, guys, and like I said, thanks for everything that you guys do. Keep up the great work. We'll see you at the rink.
Thanks so much.
All right, we got to say thank you to head coach Ryan Oulahen, fourth tour of duty on the Frontline podcast. I'm Tom Parisi. Kortney Kenny, our guest Isaiah, decided he'll come back at a different time because we're insufferable. All right, so let's take it back to the weekend that was. We were talking about it during the podcast. 3-game winning streak against 3 tough opponents. Well, one of them was the same. So 2 wins against the Greyhounds over the weekend at the bunker itself, and then another win against Kingston. Let's break down those 2 Sioux games first. I got to hear them on the radio a little bit because I was at work during them. And first game, their announcers just the worst, the worst. But second, I was so happy to hear the comeback wins. What they score 4 goals in that third period.
Yeah, it was like 4 goals in the last 5 minutes.
Like the last 5 minutes. So that, I don't know about you, but that to me sounds like a character building game right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was funny because that was our first game back with the Frontline broadcast. So I was next.
You got to broadcast it
the next day.
The next one, right?
Yeah,
we'll talk about that in a bit.
But yeah, no, that was fun. But anyway, so I'm in the booth. Not, you know how the booth is where there's that little wall between the away, and so I could hear the guy.
A giant sneeze guard.
Yeah. And I could hear the guy from the Sioux, and I'm like, this guy they gave him a radio job.
Oh,
anyways, that's besides the point. That was a fun game. It was fun to have people, because I'd gone to a few of the games without fans in attendance. So as me being really the only fan in the building that would go like here's the power play, woo, I would be in the rink going woo with it, like yeah, or trying to cheer or whatever. But I'm still there to do a job. Unfortunately, I wish I could just watch hockey games sometimes.
It is fun. Just a side note, when you've been broadcasting or like reporting on hockey, sometimes it's so much fun just to go to one and do nothing.
Or
it's so refreshing.
Or drive all the way to Sudbury just to go watch a hockey game.
That was a great day.
It was a fantastic day for sure. Anyways, yeah, no, that was a fun game because the atmosphere was great, even with only 500 people in attendance. As Ryan said, it's loud with the 500 people in there. You wouldn't believe it is, but it is. And yeah, that was a crazy game. So as our first game back with the Frontline game day broadcast, we had Jamie McKee had to leave after the second intermission. So the troops were down like, I want to say 2-1 at that point. And after the game, she's like, "Oh, who won?" And we were like, "Oh, the battalion 5-2." And she's like, "No way." And we were like,
"What happened?"
Yeah, like, what did I miss? So, yeah, it was quite the character building game for sure.
I loved it because I got in the car and Brandon Coe had scored. And then basically my whole drive home was just score. I was like, all right, that's a good drive home.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. And Kyle McDonald had a snipe. I mean, it was an empty net goal, but a snipe from the red line. Like, he was being harassed by some Sioux players.
That was a nice shot.
Gorgeous shot. I mean, everyone's like, "Oh, it's an empty net goal." Well, that's different. There's a difference between that and scoring a nice empty net goal, and then Patrick Stefan screwing up an empty net goal with the wide open net, and then having someone go down and score on your own goalie and tie the game. I always love taking a shot at that. But yeah, no, it was really fun. And I have to say, this is my first time seeing the Sioux because I was up north when the Sioux came last time. Ty Karche and Rory Cairns, oh my goodness, they're
Scary.
too good. They're too
God,
good.
it's scary.
O'Rourke and Thompson on that back end too. Oh my goodness, that team
It's
is
scary.
That team is scary.
They just lack a little bit of depth, but yeah, it's scary. Now the next night they pull it out in overtime, 5-4, and that's all well and good. But you got to broadcast a game.
I did, yes.
Tell us about it. You sound like you're having a good time.
I was having the time of my life, actually.
Isn't it fun?
It is fun. I'd never done play-by-play other than for a few of Voodoo's games, and I always thought that I was kind of garbage at it. Producer of our broadcast, Ben Long, was all season long was pretty much like, hey, you need to give a shot at play-by-play. You're very enthusiastic about the team, and I think it would be fantastic to hear you. And I was like, it's not really my job. That's why Matt's here. That's why Derek's here. And when Tom comes to town, that's why Tom's here. It's not my job. I'm here to be the color guy or the host or the guy that has the really awful jokes in between plays. So what happened was the opportunity presented itself where Sunday or Friday's game we needed a play-by-play guy. And so Derek Lindemann and I were kind of like, well, maybe we'll split it. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. He said, okay, well, let me know what you want to do. And I went home and I slept on it. And Friday morning I woke up and I said, yeah, I'm going to give this a shot because I just seen the team. So I kind of knew them. So I didn't really have to worry about memorizing their names or anything like that. So I was like, yeah, I'll give this a shot. Went into that game. I was nervous just before puck drop. It was like maybe 5 minutes before puck drop. The nerves hit a little bit. And then as soon as the puck dropped, it was just like any other broadcast. It was just the game. I'm here to describe it. This is what's going on. I said a few things a little bit too much. Like I said Joe Verbetic a lot instead of Verbetic. I said harassed a lot. Just little things I'm picking up like afterwards when I was listening to it again, where I'm like, okay, you're starting to pick it apart and be like, okay, I know what I need to fix.
It was your first day.
Yeah.
Calm down. You did a great job.
Well, coming from you, who to me is my play-by-play hero, that means a lot. So thank you.
Shucks.
But and it was really fun. I got to call Anthony Romani's first ever OHL goal. That was that felt like a privilege in itself, and it was a gorgeous goal. Little dipsy doodle around Tucker Tynan, who was thrust into duty because Ivanov was injured. And then I got to call Petrov's overtime winner, which was a blast as well too, considering while we're talking about the game, the battalion didn't really get any good chances in overtime. Like that was like, I think their first shot in overtime and they scored it.
The other guys had most of it the entire time. And
yeah,
hey, all you need is one.
Exactly.
So that worked out fantastic.
Yeah. I'm just saying they're perfect with me as play-by-play.
I'm saying you keep it going. And then Kingston comes into town and people are like, man, Kingston's good. And Kingston is good. But man, did the team ever make him look like a junior B team?
Yeah. And what was neat about the Kingston game was Kingston has two Ottawa Senators prospects, the goalie Marilainen and Rogers. Rogers was out, but the Ottawa Senators general manager, Pierre Dorian, was in attendance. Which was really interesting. Yeah, he was over across from us in section 2. One of the security guards, Randy Blake, who's a huge Sens fan, went and got his picture taken with him, of course. So, I don't think Dorian came away liking much of Marilainen in net. So, it wasn't a good showing for the goaltender. But as we mentioned with Ryan, they really shut down Shane Wright. Yeah, okay, he got the goal at the end, but even then, it was kind of like, whatever, like it was it was a fun game.
Maybe the Sens saw somebody on the battalion team they like.
Yeah, maybe. And there's a few battalion players we've talked about it all year that are draft eligible this year. I mean, Ty Nelson,
Tanias,
Dom, who unfortunately wasn't in that game, injured in the Friday game. But yes, Dom was back on the bench, backing up. Wakely, all these guys who are NHL.
Jackson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but again, Jackson's still out, unfortunately, as we talked with.
I'm just naming all the injured guys.
Orange beat, no.
He is too.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of crazy to think that this team is still this good with all these injuries. Like, isn't it? Like, and I gotta say, in front of Ottawa Senators GM Pierre Dorian, Dallin Wakely scored a nice shorthanded goal with a second
Yes,
left
he
on
did.
shorthanded, but it was a snipe and a half. Also, I got a highlight for Kingston. They have North Bay product, Lucas Edmonds, on their team, who's a 20-year-old. He's an overager, but he's a rookie this year, not considered a rookie, but played overseas for a few years. He's from, obviously, the Bay. He's got 60 points in 30-some games for the Frontneck, so good to see that. But it was nice, and he picked up an assist on the right goal. But it was still nice to see the Battalion shut them down pretty handily.
It was spectacular. Now, coming up this week, we've got Niagara, then Mississauga in Mississauga, and then back home on Sunday for a date with the Sudbury Wolves. 2 of those games, at least, very winnable.
Yeah, and the thing, very winnable, but I mean,
You can never rule it out. You never can.
I mean, Niagara's played North Bay very well, especially as of late. Even though they're down in the bottom half of the standings, they don't really strike me as a bottom feeder team, especially with Gushkin, but he's out with the suspension again, but I'm not sure how long he's out for. Which he might save him, because I was gonna say I think the Battalion are looking for a little bit of revenge on him after they took out their goalie DiVincentis. But who knows? Yeah, and then Mississauga, which you'll be able to see Mr. Coles and I on your TV hosting that one. But
so Gushkin can come back on February 11th.
That's not Thursday, is it? That's after, eh?
Yeah. What are we?
The 8th to do.
That's Friday.
Okay, so he misses them by a day. But Gushkin's like their big guy up front, so having him in the lineup, you got to strike while the iron's hot type of thing. Mississauga will be tough because, well, we'll get into Mississauga in a moment. And then Sudbury, they're probably one of my favorite games to do all the time. Like, I love going to those games when Sudbury's coming to town, or going to Sudbury, because it's that rivalry game, and both teams, like the Battalion, are really good again. And Sudbury has some intriguing players, in Goyette and Musty and all this stuff. They're in a little bit of a funk themselves, so they traded off Thompson to the Sioux. But they're still a fun team to watch, especially with Musty out there. And of course, they traded Stillman too, I should say. But I always get amped for those Sudbury games.
How could you not? So yeah, there's Sudbury, there's Niagara, and Mississauga, and it bugs me, Kortney. And Mississauga is so good, and nobody goes to watch him play. Like, I know there's restrictions and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure, like, they don't even have to worry about that.
No.
On a good day. I mean, it bugs me. They're stingy. Jeez Louise, their goalies, man, they got to have a rough day to let in 3 goals.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're Roman Bassron and Joe Ranger have been fantastic for.
Like, what a find, because Bassron was out in Kelowna in WHL, and he got put on waivers. Nobody wanted him.
Yeah. Mississauga's like, okay,
we need an overager. Let's bring him in. And they've been splitting time together, and what a find. What a find.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was Bassram in North Bay the last time these two teams played in North Bay, and then it was Ranger the next night. So for the Battalion, it was a back-to-back of Bassram and then Ranger. It was like, what can we do? Hopefully we'll score.
It's not fair.
No, and they got shut out on that second game too. So hopefully it works out. But yeah, as you mentioned, I don't even think they were getting over 1,000 people before, even before COVID, which is weird, because Mississauga's always kind of been, in their time here, they've had 2 good years this year. And then the year that they went to the finals, when they had like Alex Nylander and Sean Day and all that stuff going on, and nobody still goes and sees them. But they're usually a bottom feeder team, except for when they're not, they're really exciting.
I've always found the middle of the road.
Yep.
And then maybe that's why. I don't know. But anyhow, 3 winnable games, and knock on wood, they just one game at a time, guys. No need to do anything drastic. Take it one day at a time, and we're hoping for some great news this weekend when in the win column. And hey, keep doing what you're doing, no matter where you play in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And as we've mentioned before, whether it's Mitch Russell on that top line filling in, who's more than capable. But you have to remember, he's not really a centerman, but he's been filling in there for Jackson. He's done a great job. Or Potaloo's been up there. Wakely's been up there. That's the thing that's exciting about this team is that, yeah, they might not have the names like other than Coe and Petrov and Jackson. And you look at it, be like, darn, where are we going to get the production from? Don't worry. Wakely's going to be the hero this week. Don't worry. Potaloo's going to be the hero. Don't worry. Van Steensel, who was on a heck of a run there for a little bit.
Isn't he? Jeez.
Yeah. He's going to take the bull by the horns. Bouchard, who has not looked out of place since being called up to the battalion. Romani's had his best 3 games as a battalion over the weekend. Sema, who's come on, like it's one of the talking points has been, that secondary scoring, where's it going to come from? And we're getting our answers. Even Kyle McDonald, who started a little slow with the battalion after the trade, he's come on really strong lately, and he looks absolutely like a world beater out there. So
hey, it's exactly what they needed.
Absolutely.
And they got the depth in at the right time, as it would seem.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we can see these guys, Arnsby, Jackson, Mathern back sooner rather than later. Because when this team has a full lineup and they're clicking, they're going to be tough to beat.
Oh, hands down. So we're looking again Thursday, 7:00, Niagara. And then I believe another 7:00 game on, is it Friday?
Yep.
In Mississauga, day off Saturday. And then Sunday against the Sudbury Wolves in North Bay.
Yep. Should be
perfect. Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It's gonna be another fun weekend. It's gonna be 3 battalion games in 4 days, which is what we just came off of. And how can you not be excited by that?
You can't.
Also, before we go, though, I do have to highlight one thing. It's not battalion related. I got to give a big congratulations to Powassan Voodoo's general manager, Chris Dawson, who has reached 300 career wins in the NOJHL after the Voodoos defeated the Blind River Beavers on Sunday. So congratulations, Mr. Dawson, friend of the show, of course. And
well deserved.
I absolutely. And he's got a couple of championships in there between the Trappers and the Voodoos. So good for you, Chris. And I'm pretty sure
Powassan has been a bad team once.
Yeah.
And it was their first year. And even then, I remember calling the NOJHL games in Iroquois Falls at the time. And they were always giving teams fit.
Yeah.
Always. I've been a fan ever since.
They I think they're 2 wins away from 250 as a franchise. Is what
Excellent.
I saw. But yeah, they've always been a decent team. I mean, I think that first year when they were a bad team, I think that was the year that Steve Harlan had like 90 some points for them or whatever. So
it was ridiculous.
You know what it was? If you look back on the roster that sunk them is goaltending. They had no goaltending that year.
That's changed and then some.
Yeah. And then the next year, Garrett Forrest, who was a battalion prospect at the time, comes out and has like a 930 some save percentage for them. And they completely turned it around. So yeah, congratulations to Chris. Big
gotta get him on the show again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to talk about these U16 players that we're highlighting.
Honestly, why not? All right, so that does it for us this week. We had a good one. We got to thank Ryan Oulahen, the coach of the team, for coming on. Isaiah dropping by again. We're hoping to see more of him too. And if you want to hear some of the great questions he's asked in the past, go check out his episode with Adam Dennis. He really, no holds are being barred at all. He asks the tough ones. And of course, our intrepid producer, Ben Sargent, who always makes us sound fantastic, to the gang who are doing the broadcast. So this is how you can hear us on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcast, and a few other places in between. Make sure you're listening to the game day broadcasts. Kortney's going to be there as always. Bob, Derek, Matt, the whole gang shows up and they have a great time. And of course, thanks to the battalion for letting us do this. And look for us on social media and them on social media. And if you're watching this on your TV, you can watch the full episodes on YouTube or listen to us at the places I highlighted earlier. All right. So he's Kortney Kenny. I'm Tom Parisi, and this time I get to say it. This was fun. Let's do it again sometime.